Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the delay. The 40-minute delay. I blame him. It's not my fault. It is his fault.
That's what happened.
No, it's just this isn't one of his scheduled things. That's all it is. And no offense. I'm sorry. It's just I know this is kind of just an evening thing for you, and I know you don't actually care about me or mine. It's just he hates you guys. Is that I was gonna keep quiet about it. I'm sorry. I don't like lying. Whoops, that's the wrong music. That's the wrong music. That's the wrong music. There we go. There we go.
Professional streamer right here. Folks.
Damn right. That's definitely so. I was gonna do a joke about that, but I changed my mind. All right. So today we're rerunning Star Trek 2. Now my first thought is we kill Savik immediately, and then we kill Spock right at the beginning, and then we kill Chekhov with the ear thing, and Chekhov is actually a bluegill. He's actually the bluegill queen. That leads to Sulu, who is killed by Scotty, who is killed by McCoy. But McCoy is turned into a bluegill as well, so Kirk has to kill his friend. And then Khan shows up. What do you think?
I like it.
Right.
I also got to start my side too, though. So
I'm waiting a minute. That's why I'm just blathering stupid stuff right now.
That's why you're setting it up.
That's why I'm just chatting about how we're gonna ruin Wrath of Khan. That's the idea.
Dude, it is quite possible that's what we'll do.
That is super possible, dude. All I'm gonna say. I love creative challenges. It's some things I live for. By the way, hi, Brakeman. It's one of the things I live for. Hello, Justin. But I've always found there's two equally interesting creative challenges. Trying to fix something that's so broken that you have to just gut it, Star Trek 5, and trying to change something that's so good it's polished to a shine, Star Trek 2. These are both just as interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad this is something that we had gotten into. And now I'll
take a flex on that. There we go.
Buddy, you did it. It's all you.
I mean, it's funny because I started this so far back, and everyone. Sorry, forgive me for sharing this story once again, but everyone voted for me to stop. Like, I was doing the Voyager rewrites, and then people were like, no, don't do it. We don't want to hear your version of the... And I was like, oh.
I actually liked it.
Okay.
That really surprises me.
Well, the funny thing is, obviously, that was 8 years ago at this point. Nowadays, that's what I hear more, is people saying, why did you stop? And I'm like, at the time, everyone voted for me not to. Everyone voted for me to stop. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah, that was... I don't know. That was really weird.
I just shrug. Then again... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I was perusing one of my old comments one time, and I saw someone saying, Lori, you better stop talking about Star Trek. It's damaging your brand and hurting your viewership because people just want to see the video game stuff, was the kind of comments I used to get back in the day. So who knows on that one? Here we go. Here's your thing. Now I got your chat open.
Yeah, everybody wins. The one thing, too, the only real frustrating thing here is that like when we do something to a character or we kill them off, it's like, why did you kill them off? Now you can't do anything with Uhura or whatever character. And Uhura, who I'm talking about, of course. I'm like, well, they didn't do anything with Uhura.
They didn't.
Like, I get that this is technically fan fiction, but it's not like we don't take things into account. If they do something major with a character, we're not going to instantly just stop using that character. It's just, if they don't do anything with it, we'll actually give like some kind of honor or some depth to it, In this one, literally the scene I remember with her, is her holding Kirk's book and then reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. That's her contribution to Wrath of Khan.
It's sad when Chekhov has more screen time and relevance than Uhura. Just saying.
Right. I mean, Scotty didn't have much either, I don't think. He was more...
No, Scotty in 2 was mostly just his nephew. That was his big contribution to 2. Because his nephew was the death of 2. Well, one of two deaths.
Well, and I don't know, maybe it was just a finance thing, but really, the more we watch it, the more like it seems like a focus, and I get that they were the main characters, the main part of the ensemble, but it seems like Spock, McCoy, and Kirk got a lot, and then everyone else...
Big 3.
Yeah, they just got lucky,
So let's start with the first change. I won't actually meme this time. Because I want to discuss this, especially with you guys, but also with Mr. Reloaded up here. The console exploded.
Before we do that, before we get into that,
okay.
I think we do need to give a little bit of background because it's important. So
right.
we're doing a change in the original series. during. So two things. First off, in Space Seed, and Runner watched this more than me, but in Space Seed, apparently there's no confirmation that it was the Botany Bay. First off, and secondly, we never really see them land or whatever. They just say that they send them, right? So we're going to keep that vague, though they may actually mention the Botany Bay. And then in which one was it?
Errand of Mercy, which is 2 episodes later.
Yeah, in Errand of Mercy. And if you may be able to tell it better because you're the one that came up with the idea, but
Here, I'll just do it. So in the beginning of Errand of Mercy, because this is fresh in my mind because I just covered TOS, the first 6 or 7 minutes of the episode is all of them being nervous and tense and worried about the conflict with the Klingons, expositing about who and what the Klingons are, and giving a nature of why they're potentially worried about a war. Then, and in the background, Spock is getting some messages from Starfleet Command about how things are escalating at an extremely rapid pace, which leads to the culmination of war actually being declared and combat with the Klingons, which leads to their orders to go to Argania, right? The idea is to slot into that an additional little tidbit mentioning one of them is going through listening to Casualty List. It could actually be Chekhov. In fact, I think that works pretty well. But either way, whoever it is listening to the Casualty List and brings the attention of one of the casualties that has been reported due to the border skirmishes is the SS Botany Bay. And there should just be a moment, very brief, of course, in Errand of Mercy, in that intro, where Kirk just kind of looks sullen, and Spock comments as an aside, I suppose the crows of war have managed to grab one more seed from our future. Just something like that, right? Right. So the idea here, for those of you not really quite getting it, because both my chats are over here, so if I look over here, I'm looking at chat. The idea here is that Starfleet, in general, Kirk in personal, and we, the viewers, think Khan is dead. All of that is relevant to smooth over a lot of nonsense in the beginning of Wrath of Khan. So
right, and I think it makes I think it adds more to it because again, when you think about it, it's just one of the biggest plot holes in the Wrath of Khan that needs to be fixed. Is that first off, they don't know they're in the SETI Alpha system. They don't realize that sensors don't pick up this massive destroyed planet that just isn't there anymore, and they don't even see the impacts it's having on everything around it. This just fixes everything. The planet isn't destroyed. The Botany Bay, they think, is destroyed. And it's possible, we don't have to do this, but it could be theorized that maybe the Botany Bay was either destroyed or Khan made it look like it was destroyed, but he could only get to that planet. Mm-hmm. Like he was going to get to SETI Alpha, the lush planet that they thought they were going to, but he couldn't. He just made it look like the ship was destroyed so that he could land there.
Yep.
So that he could save them. So, I mean, it fits in so much better than all of a sudden seeing the Botany Bay and being like, wait a second.
This is the other planet that I forgot about. And also we missed a planet when we were scanning the system, apparently. Yeah,
so.
It's pretty close, relatively, Spartan, but I don't have a map in front of me. Because it's a real system.
Yeah. So that would be that. But now we're going to talk. So here's the thing. And it's it gets a little bit confusing. But the way that we're trying to do this, and it's not set in stone, so we break the rules a little bit, is that we kind of want to keep it a little bit consistent. We do want to have continuity, and we want to utilize characters. And if a character is killed or goes away in what actually happened, we do want to try to bring that in as well. And so one of the things is consoles exploding and having rocks go everywhere. And they do that for a couple of reasons. First off, it's a lot more action-packed. It's a lot more dramatic. It adds tension. And you want to remove it. But my question is, how do we keep it action-packed? We're actually writing this as if it would go on screen, right? So you got to show action. You got to show tension. If you want to remove that, how are you going to replace it?
Now, I do have an idea of that, but first I want to toss it at both of our chats here, because the objective here is that One Winged Angel is giving me a sub. Thank you very, very much, One Winged Angel. Always appreciate those. Unfortunately, you can't really put that towards carrots directly. If you want to put that towards something else, that's totally cool. I do appreciate it. The objective here, Reloaded is absolutely right about this. We need to show... So, even if I was doing this the way I would want, which is hopping on a holodeck and recreating it, it would still be... the end product would still be thrown up on a screen for people to watch, right? Sequentially. Right. Like you say, it is supposed to be an actual show. You can't just have people shake, and you can't just have people in the background listing off numbers. There's a dryness to that. That can work for certain types of shows. There are some kind of shows which are much more down to earth, grounded, straight military. Like if we were doing an Honor Harrington series, that could probably work. I don't think that fits for Star Trek. So Reloaded is right. We need to do something to have a physical visual, or it doesn't have to be visual, but a physical presence of damage and danger on camera. What do we do to actually put that? What do we do to add to that and to show that?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that you have to have that to a degree. Now, there was something you brought up while we're waiting for them to give their answer. There was something you brought up that it didn't feel like it had an impact. So that's fair. But I think that we could really the series Enterprise that up. Because Enterprise, when someone got hurt during the Xindi War arc, they actually felt it. They were down a man.
That's true.
And it stayed. And they even talked about it. So if we did have those explosions, which would cause complete and utter bodily harm, if not, just outright killing a person, then it would just be something written in there. They would actually feel it. And you could even write that into later parts of it. It's like, why aren't we getting this done? Sir, we've been in combat. We had 20 people killed, 30 people in medbay. We're down 50 people, or it doesn't have to be 50 people, but even 10 people is an impact. So that's what I would say doing it. But I mean, we can see what the other comments are.
So far, I am not seeing anything, to be completely honest.
Yeah, well, mine has like a 90-second delay.
That's true. Your chat is mega delayed. Mine is right here, but they're just, I am not. So, okay, I have been just given $1 so that you will strip live on camera to disco music.
No, it's got to be more than $1.
Yeah, seriously, Colin, come on.
I mean, come on. I'll do it. I'm a capitalist, but it has to be more than $1. And it has to be toss present. So we're talking shirt. The Ferengi show up. That could be it. I don't know.
No. I'm sorry. I shouldn't lay that down so thoroughly.
The only other thing you could do is you can have the explosions, just not at the consoles, even though that has issues on its own. Why are consoles exploding?
Yeah, that's one of my biggest problems. First of all, it does feel cheap, like I said. The second problem, though, is it makes no sense. And I know we could say this is Star Trek, but there are gradients of sense make even within Star Trek. And consoles exploding is one of the dumbest damn things that has always bothered me, even when I was a kid.
The one thing you could do is you could have... because circuit breakers are a thing, right?
Yeah, it's this weird brand new invention we just came up with in the 23rd century.
Here's the thing. You want your explosions and fire. It happens all around the crew. And maybe sometimes some people will get hurt. But it happens in walls and stuff and ruptures. And it happens at these circuit breakers that are set away from the crew to keep them protected. And then you still have an exploding bridge, but it's done in a way that explains why. And, people would still get hurt. They'd still have scratches, bumps, or whatever, but they don't have something exploding in their face.
So one thing I was thinking, no, Cashel, we're not having exploding Ferengi cod pieces. So most of you will probably get that, and that makes me sad. Here's the thought I had. So I'm borrowing heavily from later Trek movies, but with the advantages of time and money, you can do a decent amount with this. So rather than the bridge exploding, which just has never really lined up for me, have other ships of other parts of the ship get hit and get exploded, right?
Right.
There's a scene in, I hate to refer to the Kelvin movies, but there's a scene in that where the ship gets hit and we see the people get sucked out into space before the emergency shields get on, right?
Right.
Just to give an example of what I'm talking about. Or, to use a more down-to-earth perspective, in Star Trek VI, when they're getting hammered by the bird of prey that can fire while cloaked, what will happen is even the ship shaking, the camera will jump to some other part of the ship which is getting smashed. And that's the part of the ship that's getting blown up. Not because the console's blowing up, because it's being blown up. Because it's just taking that kind of damage. That's my answer to that.
That happens in this movie too, though.
It does, yes.
When it hits the neck, you actually get a location of where it's getting hit. So, I mean, we definitely could do that. And then, I mean, it would be more important when the bridge is targeted, and then we could do more with that. And when the bridge actually is targeted,
yeah, that's when things are serious at that point.
Right.
So, go ahead.
No, I
was just gonna. God damn it.
Beyond that, they just have to explain why they always make the bridge where everyone can get to it.
I mean, if we wanted to walk around that really quick, we could just say it's ultra armored. There we go. We're done. Um, there's neutronium around the bridge. Sure, there, fine.
Versus just putting it right.
Versus, listen, that would make too much sense. We could actually do that. It's not actually that hard to just move it. We wouldn't even have to change the visual of the ship.
It doesn't impact the narrative ever.
Yeah, exactly. So just move the bridge to the center of the ship. Done. There you go. We're done with that. Anyways, but yeah, the reason I bring that up specifically, you're probably wondering why I'm bringing it up with Wrath of Khan. First of all, it's a long-term thing. It happens all over the place in Trek. But second of all, it happens at the very beginning of Wrath of Khan when they're on the simulator. And the simulator's going through the Kobayashi Maru. And what happens, I just watched this a few minutes ago, what happens is the sparks go out and they die. Obviously they're pretending, but that it's intended to be shown as straight. Oh, my console exploded. I'm dead. And I was watching that like, God, that's stupid. It was just running through my head as I'm watching it. Why is this a thing?
Right. Well, I love Spock's. Oh, it hit me in the spine, which obviously kills me.
Oh, I know. He does the greatest. He does this thing where he's like, oh, and he like jumps forward as he falls to the ground, dead from the console exploding behind him.
Right. Yeah, it made absolutely no sense. It's just like, oh god.
I know it's a simulation. It doesn't make it any sillier. Anyways, or less silly. All right, so that's the first big change is get rid of the exploding consoles. That's always been dumb. And get rid of the rocks falling. And I think the second biggest change is we need to turn everyone into an Orion slave girl. Just the whole crew.
All of them. Well, it's the only way to do it because they'll get headaches if you don't.
That's true.
It's
so
really just humanitarian.
Now, I will go ahead and admit there's a lot. I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you this to anybody who's watching this as of this point in time. There's a lot of really good character stuff, which honestly, I'm just hands-offing most of that.
Yeah.
Most of the character stuff is spot on and tight and amazing and awesome. That there's just even trying to improve would just be nitpicking at the tiniest level for most of that.
Right.
So the next major change, if I'm not mistaken, would be what we do with Chekhov, if you remember.
No.
No, there's something before that?
Yeah, so the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh, right.
We're changing the way that it works. When cadets go through it, it's more dynamic. The situations change, and the actual situation changes depending on how the cadets interact with it.
The idea there is, picture it like this. Picture you're the GM of a Star Trek, players playing Star Trek, and you have to run them through a Kobayashi Maru, a no-win scenario. So you don't actually have to do the exact same module every time, which is what they actually do canonically. You could just say, okay, and you could design your no-win scenario for the specific cadets and for the crew. So the one we see in Wrath of Khan isn't actually changed. It's just that's not the Kobayashi Maru. It's the one that is being run for that particular crew of cadets. That's the idea. And thus, when we see the Kobayashi Maru in other things, they would be going through different variants on the scenario.
Well, and they could still just call it the Kobayashi. We could even write that in. It's called the Kobayashi Maru because that was the first one ever thought up, or whatnot. Or maybe the Kobayashi.
Or maybe that was Kirk's, the historic one.
Yeah, and maybe that's what I remember. I mean, that would fit Shatner's ego exactly. It's called the Kobayashi Maru because it's the only one that was ever beaten by Kirk. So that's what they could do with it. And then the other piece to that too, I think, not to that, but the conversation after, we did have Spock and Kirk having a conversation, and during that conversation, everything generally stays the same, except we would have an add-in with Spock talking about Klingon unrest and mentioning the rise of this little-known Klingon who seems to be wanting to change it for the better, named Gorkon. The other thing I think during this time is Kirk being very open to that. Kirk saying, hopefully that happens if there's anything we can do without actually getting in the middle of it. Then maybe, we can do that. We can be open to that. Kirk hoping for a better Klingon Empire in this movie, I think would be very...
No, I agree completely. It not only does it... If you remember, I don't know if you said this in your recap video. Great video, recap video. Everyone, you should go watch his recap of the TMP changes. Thank you, Corti, very much for the sub. Always appreciate it. If you know where to put it, let me know. In the recap, I don't know if you mentioned it, but one of the things we're going to do is Gorkon is actually going to be present in one of the TOS episodes. And he's going to be one of the ones who specifically goes up against Kirk, and the two of them have an honorable thing. In fact, my personal pick would be Day of the Dove, because I think that would line up pretty neatly there. And so Gorkon does have a tiny bit of history with Kirk and vice versa. And so the two do have a respect for each other. And that would have been, obviously, when Gorkon is much younger and much earlier in his career, like a captain or whatever. And so bringing up Gorkon here leads perfectly to your idea of Kirk being like, yeah, no, that I'm with that. That could be a great sea change, and will also come back up in 3, which we'll cover later.
And he even brings that up. He's like, wasn't that the guy we faced off against or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And then says something positive about him, because he's going to be completely changed in the next one.
Yep.
So Robert Williams, supporting the channel. Only way I keep the lights on. Thank you so much. Please start a collab channel, Lore Runner Reloaded.
I mean, that is how that would work, because Lore Reloaded Runner doesn't sound right?
It doesn't fall off the tongue.
Yeah, but Lore Runner Reloaded, it's smooth right there. Yeah. That's our ship name, by the way. I hope you know
Silk,
that.
Baby. Silk. Okay, so, and then the next piece, and Savik. We were talking about Savik.
Yes, we need to turn her into absolutely just like, wait, my own. So I have a viewer named Savik Kam. You can guess what her favorite character is in Star Trek. Right. And I was going to poke fun at her, but I don't think she's actually here. If you're watching the VOD, Savik Kam, we're gonna delete her from reality. We're just going to erase Savik. She's gone. Okay, there we go. I'm done poking fun. No, yeah, we're not changing anything about her other than I do think it's important that she is nicely you know what? I don't think we need to change anything. We're good. Let's leave her as is.
You wanted to keep the same actress or whatever. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is kind of a duh, but the idea is we'll have the same actress in 2, 3, and 6. Will be the idea, rather than having a different actress in all 3 films.
Right. Well, and I mean, I just know how much you respect the Savik character. Christy Alley. I knew you were.
Oh, right. I could. Who?
It took me a second. I was trying to make that joke, given what we talked about before.
No. We need to make it. What was her name? I can't remember the other one's name now. No, the one in 6. Kim Cattrall. There you go. We got Kim Cattrall playing Savik in all 3 things. But yeah, no, this is such a simple change. We just use the same actress. I don't care who it is. We just use the same actress in all 3 movies. Duh.
Right.
And by the way, I'm fine with her being half Romulan, to respond to chat there.
The other, and then moving off to the Chekhov thing with Chekhov and the captain. They go down to SETI Alpha 6 in a shuttle because they don't have a place to beam down to. So yeah. So for people who need to, we're going to have to do this every time. But transporters don't work the same way that they do in the actual series. For it to be safe, you have to have 2 site-to-site transport. You have to have transporter pads on both sides, both active. That's like 95% they're going to get there, or almost 100% they're going to get there. If you don't, it's like 60% or less that they're going to actually make it. So it's almost unacceptable to do unless you absolutely have to. So they go down in the shuttle, they find the Botany Bay, they realize what happens. Khan and crew overpower them.
Effortlessly.
Effortlessly. Then they go back up in the shuttle and they trick the crew, which is ingenious as they are. I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue.
You'll notice there's no worm here. I just want to point that out.
We're not gonna.
It's
come up in a second. Yeah. So you go. You tell them what's gonna happen. Give them, because I think this would be, if we're writing it, this is the major change we do, and I think this would be the most powerful scene of the movie if they had went this way.
So the idea here, I'm going to credit Reloaded because he came up with most of the pieces here. I was already thinking we should get rid of the worm, and I felt it was super easy to do that structurally, because all you have to do is they shuttle down. The Khanites shuttle back up and effortlessly take over the ship, right? Because that would be super easy for a bunch of people who are completely prepared versus people who are not and not superhuman, right? I mean, this just lines up. But then you're like, well, how do you get Chekhov to work with it? Well, so
what happens beforehand? They explained, like, with the crew too. Don't forget. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to forget. Don't worry. I'm not going to forget. There's this Khan has given this order to go ahead, and he's like, well, my people can take care of most of the running of the ship. There's no need for the rest of the Starfleet personnel. We'll go ahead and execute them. And Chekhov has a scene. This is going to be an added scene, so it's going to be a little bit lengthy. And Chekhov is talking his way through this. We'll have to workshop the dialogue a bit, but the idea is Chekhov is successfully smart enough to try and maneuver through Khan's ego to try and convince him to leave the crew alive and to beat him in this thing. And, you know, it's the only way you're going to get us to work with you, and we know things you don't, and blah, 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 blah. By the way, one important thing, I thought of this, I didn't say this out loud. A line I would have Chekhov say is, we know the tech that you don't. It's been years since you've been on a Starfleet vessel. That'll be important because if you remember, that's how Kirk beats him the first encounter. Right. So Chekhov actually mentions that. Khan is like, you know what, you're right. I think it would be cruel to simply execute them all. Reaches over, hits the comm thing. Beam them down to the surface. And so Khan's people forcibly beam these people down to the surface. Remember, there's no exit pad on the surface.
Right.
And we hear screams as they're down because, again, 60% is a fatality rate. Oh, and by the way, some of those remaining 40% are probably not getting there in one piece. And this whole time, and there's this scene, and you don't even have to show it. In fact, what I would do visually is I'd have the camera focused on Chekhov, and I can't remember his name, but Captain Awesome, the two people that they decide to keep alive. And Khan's just you know, there, and you could just hear the screaming in the background, and the people, you could hear the struggle as people are being physically forced onto the transporter pad. And yeah, don't actually show it, just we hear what's happening. Tyrell, thank you. We hear what's happening as they are being beamed down, and then we cut to another scene, because I don't know if we want to do the Chekhov scene right after that, because I feel like that's a good thing to do a jump cut to a character bit, have a little bit of pacing tempo there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it would be expedient to do it, and it would show him being evil. I guess, I don't know, that's an interesting thought.
Because like, directorial, you know what I'm talking about here. Cinematography, in terms of cinematography, we could end on that scene, and that just makes that a period of that sentence. Or we can have a comma there, which then leads immediately into the next bit of horror.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. Because you could do an up down thing with it, or you could just have him be completely evil in one complete slot. I don't. Let's do it as a period for a second, and then maybe we'll change it. See what they think with a period. So if we went back to the character piece, what would it go to?
So that would lead. So hang on, let me think of the structure of the episode, or the episode. I keep saying that. The movie. What that would probably mean is that would happen right after the scene between Kirk and Spock. We would probably then go to the scene between Kirk and McCoy. Would be the next one, where they're in Kirk's room and they're drinking the Romulan ale. You know, get your command back. I'm your friend. I'm your doctor. Again, we're not really touching most of the character scenes because they're just brilliant. But yeah, and so I like that, by the way, Seldier. And so we cut there. We cut back to that scene. And this would then lead, probably, because now the next thing that happens is they have to have a reason to go out into space, and Kirk needs a reason to take him out of the ship. Cut to the second scene, the second Chekhov scene. Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to say it?
I can. Yeah, it's just, so when we get back to Chekhov and Khan having their back and forth, Khan knows about Genesis. He wants to get more information, and most importantly, he wants to get back at Admiral Kirk. And Chekhov is saying he's not going to help him. He tells him to contact what's the planet? Or
Regulus?
Yeah. To contact Regulus. He says, "You're crazy if you think that I'm going to help you. There's no way I'm going to help you.
You just killed my entire crew." Yeah, he's probably still reacting to this too, just like.
He's like, you killed over 60% of my crew. There's no way you're just going to kill Kirk too. I'm not going to help you. There's a palpable pause. Khan sits there thinking for a second. He looks over to one of his orderlies, or one of the other people, and he says, "Isn't Starfleet known for having the most advanced medical facilities, even on their starships?" And
then jump cut away.
I mean, this takes him to another level. This makes him, I mean, he's already psychotic. I think this just really...
So the next, we'd have to have one other breather scene. I'm not sure which. In fact, hang on, let me pull the movie up really quick here, because we need another breather scene after that, just for tempo's sake. Double checking. So they're doing, right, there you go, perfect. So the next scene they would do would be the inspection scene, right? Where they're, because it's supposed to be a tour, shakedown crew. So we just cut to that scene. We see Scotty, he talks about his nephew. They're taken out. They go faster than they should. And then the next scene in the actual film is Chekhov talking to Regulus. So that works perfectly.
Right, and then he's still off like he is.
Yeah, he's just a little bit off. He's pausing where he probably shouldn't be. His dialogue is just a little bit slurred,
Him and both. Do you think they should do it to the captain too?
I was thinking about that. I'm not sure, but I mean that makes the most sense. The only problem is we've given so much for Chekhov to do that Tyrell almost has been written out of the narrative, and I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, Why did they never really needed him originally anyway? Chekhov.
No, he was just. I mean, he's a good actor. That's why I liked him. But it's just.
And that's probably why they had him there, just to have him there.
Yeah. Let's see. What could we do with Tyrell?
What do you get? What is the audience? What do you think they'd do? Do you think we should keep Tyrell? Should we just get rid of him? Should he have been a part of the crew that went down?
Oh no, I got it. Okay. Sorry. The idea here, we could explain this later, but Tyrell would be present. He would be there. Khan keeps Chekhov and Tyrell for a very specific reason. He keeps Chekhov because personal vengeance, right? Mm-hmm. He keeps Tyrell because command codes. And so Chekhov and Tyrell are both taken out, taken to the horrible death Starfleet thing. And what ends up happening is Tyrell is not in the rest of the film. And we never actually specifically addressed that. It's just he stops being in the film. So the implication is present there, and we see exactly how lucky Chekhov is to currently be alive. Oh, by the way, Chekhov would be effectively permanently damaged by this. That's going to come up in the next film. So remember that.
And so, one thing, let me point this out too. We are, because people get a little bit confused, and I'm going to make it very clear in the next summation video. We are Babylon 5ing this. It's putting it together and making it cohesive. It's trying to build a cohesive world, assuming that when we were writing this, we knew that this was one. I don't even think that's an excuse. When you write stories, you can make them cohesive even if you build upon them. So it's basically trying to make sure everything stays together. So like you said, he's going to be damaged here. He's going to be permanently hurt. He's going to be mentally challenged, and that's going to be impactful into the future, into other movies. Mm-hmm. So it's not just we're doing this to the guy and it's never going to happen. What do you think you're watching? OG Star Trek? No, we're actually we're making things happen and have consequences.
Yeah, we are, to use my own terminology, we are front loading this, not back loading.
Right. That's an actual thing too, isn't it? It's not just your terminology. It's
I don't remember. I've taken a lot of lingo from from television productions. I don't know if that's one of them or not.
Okay, so then we move to, and honestly, this is going to be one of the reasons we started late, is because there's not a lot to add to this. It's pretty quick. The next one would be on the asteroid, I think. There's nothing else before that, right?
So Chekhov dials in, and they're talking, and the scientists are all upset. Oh, one other very minor detail. It's implied, but I think we should make it a little more obvious, that one of the reasons the scientists have to go through Starfleet is because of the fact that they're designing something that could be a horrible weapon. So you kind of have to go through Starfleet on that one. In the film, all there is the kid, his son, who is just upset because he's got daddy issues. I like the idea more that it's more, oh God, why do we have to deal with Starfleet? Because you're designing a planet-destroying weapon. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just it's not supposed to be a weapon, though. Yes, but it could be. Yeah, but just have him be kind of, one of those pie-in-the-sky scientists who doesn't understand what a rocket can be. Right.
Well, and I love because everybody there's still this constant conversation and fight on if Starfleet is a military.
It's a military.
They yell it 6 times in this movie. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, they do.
We never should have trusted
the military. Yep. They flat out call them the military too. It amuses me. I mean, there's also they call Savik Sir, which is actually a military thing. There's a lot of military protocol and how they operate and how they interact. They even have the in Star Trek 6. I mean, Anyways,
Mister was a thing too, right? Originally, everybody was Mister, regardless of gender and stuff like that in the military.
I think that was, but I'm not
I think
sure.
that's where they got that from too. But yeah, it's just funny. I totally blocked that out or something because they called it a military like at least 4 or 5 times. Okay, so yeah, he's having a resistance. Then they get to Regulus. They are trying to figure out what's going on. Where is everybody? They find the crew there. I think that's very Khan-esque.
Oh yeah, pause real quick. I just want to make it clear in case anybody wonders. We're not changing the confrontation between Khan and Kirk at all. The first confrontation, it is poetry. It is beautiful and amazing, and just one of the most well-crafted things in Star Trek. I actually went back through it just before we started the call reloaded. I can't even nitpick it.
Yeah.
They just nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we don't mention anything, we're just keeping it the same. But I agree, it's something, and it's impactful, and it shows both characters really, really well.
And Kirk Kirk outmaneuvers Khan thanks to getting lucky, and acknowledges that, by the way. He acknowledges that he got lucky. And it's because of the fact that Khan didn't know the tech, which, thanks to our change, Chekhov actually referenced earlier. So we actually do a little bit of Chekhov's gun there.
Well, and that can kind of get to him as well. That the fact it keeps, I don't know how we would keep coming up. Also, something we forgot. This would be a change. Uhura would be mentioned.
Yes. In fact, someone in chat mentioned this. By the way, Savik should take Uhura's post.
And here's the thing too, I think, and I just thought of it that we should add. So remember, and we'll get back to that. But remember when they were Regula was being they couldn't get through, someone was jamming it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone, I don't know if Kirk, maybe not, and not Spock, but someone might say, because Savik,
She could have gotten through that.
Yeah, Savik's trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
She's trying to get back, and then someone says, man, I bet Uhura could have done that, and not even thinking of the impact that would have had on Savik, just outright saying it and then like, oh, sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, what's funny is I actually literally had that exact same thought and was about to say it when you cut me off. I'm not even joking. I love the idea of Savik trying to get through the noise and the jamming, and yeah, someone just casually, maybe Pakoi, I don't know, someone who doesn't have that much control of their mouth would just casually be like, oh, it's a shame Uhura's not here, and the whole bridge just goes quiet for a second. Like everyone on the bridge just stops talking for a second, and Savik just kind of goes,
yeah, and just does something very Vulcan, like, I apologize that I don't have the skills of your former.
She puts on the mask, exactly. She just kind of, I apologize, I don't have the skills of your previous comm officer. I will do the best that I am capable of doing. And there's like just a crispness to the way she says it too, right?
And and then just have Spock come in saying in his way, saying you'll do fine or whatever, because I think it'd be impactful for Spock to be the one to do it, saying you will do your best as we know you are, or something. But yeah, so, and then the confrontation would happen. That would go.
I forgot something. I'm sorry, hang on. I forgot something. I can't believe I forgot this, but someone in chat, Donovan, just reminded me of this. I had an idea that Sulu's not actually present in 2. Not really. Okay. Now, he could be present in a few specific scenes, but considering how few of the scenes happen back on Earth, he's... Here's my thought. Sulu is currently commander of another ship, actively working towards becoming captain of his own ship. And then the idea here is I would have Sulu... The overall goal is having Sulu become captain before 6.
Right.
He's still going to end up there. But I was kind of thinking about shuffling Sulu into the command track before 6 actually hits. So we could do that.
Still on the Enterprise?
Well, see, here's the thing. We could remove him from the Enterprise in 2. He doesn't do anything in 2 at all. He's ancillary for 2. We could remove him in 3. But I like the idea of removing him in 2 because, given what we were discussing in 3, that would make his helping them bail out of 3 more relevant because he's effectively torpedoing his currently promising and on-the-rise career as part of the effort, right? So that would add more, that would actually make Sulu's contribution more. And it could also be Sulu's ship that is personally responsible for how they get away from in 3. Mm-hmm. Just thinking here.
Well, another thing they could do too, and I don't know if it works with you, but the way to include him, because again, he doesn't do much, right? Mm. And maybe they might not even bring him in, but say, are there any other ships that might be able to get through? Yeah. And then, oh, look, it's the USS whatever, Excelsior. And
no, the Lantry.
Yeah, the USS Lantry. And hey, isn't Sulu the XO on that ship, or third in command, or something like that? That way we see him moving up in the thing.
Yeah.
But he's not there yet. And so they reach out. There's nothing he can do. It's just a small piece that'll.
Yeah, it would effectively be a cameo, but he would be on the screen, and we would communicate with Sulu, and it would be conveyed that he is, as you say, moving up over on the other ship.
Right.
I think EXO does work better personally. I mean, he's already third in command of the Enterprise, even in TOS. That actually comes up in a few episodes, the chain of command there. It's like, actually, no, he's fourth in command, isn't he? Because it's Kirk, Spock, Scotty, Sulu. That's the order right there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then you see that he's the executive officer. I mean, maybe we'd give him something enough to get them on their way. Maybe give him something at least like a tidbit, but it's just very small, right? And then so they have the confrontation. They go to Regulus, and they find that on Regulus, they find on the station that everybody's gone, like Khan had. There's a transporter pad there, like we see beforehand. But instead of having specific coordinates, this transporter pad has a connection, an active connection, with a transporter pad in the rock, which was something they didn't know of. We could even tie that into how they didn't trust the military. If you wanted to. This is just off the cuff. We don't have to. But maybe they were surprised to find that there's a transporter pad, an active connection in the rock. And it was something that they didn't know of. And Marcus even points that out when they get there. It's like, why would we help you? You're the military. Well, just leading into his...
Yeah. Ugh. We don't have to tell you about every little thing we do. And then someone in the background just be like, actually, you are supposed to tell us every little thing you do. It's oversight. That's what it is. Yeah. Well, you're trying to build a planet-destroying weapon. They don't do a snark like I'm snarking, but there could just be a line in the background of, you are actually supposed to report this sort of thing.
Right.
Well, I didn't.
Right. So, and then you explain what we had discussed there, because I think you're a better story.
So, okay, this is going to take a bit of rejiggering of specific motions and movements of the scenes. So the Enterprise is massively damaged. Now, this is important. This is obviously true in the original, but when I say massively damaged, I mean they're crushed, right? They're absolutely in hell. In fact, I was thinking one of the things that Sulu's ship, the Lantry, could be involved in is they're part of the reason that the Enterprise is able to warp home at all, maybe, or like get extra help or something like that. That would be after, though. That would be in 3, not in 2. Right. So yeah, they're just, and they get up to Regulus on impulse. Thankfully, they were already within impulse range of it, because otherwise that would take months. And they get to the thing, they beam down, and they're trying to figure out what the heck to go on. And the camera stays down there in the cave. As they're trying to go on, obviously there's no betrayal because Chekhov's not actually with them at this point in time, and neither is Tyrell.
So, not to stop your thing, but someone had an interesting point that I wanted to get your opinion on. And I know you like the actor, but what if we made Chekhov the captain and had that?
So I'm totally with that, and we could do that, and it's a very minor change in my opinion. The only reason I think for keeping Tyrell as captain is because it shows that the surgery killed one of them. Okay. In other words, that it could have been Chekhov who died. It just wasn't. That's the only real reason to keep that. If you want to just change it and remove the extra lethalness, that's fine. It doesn't change much.
Well, I mean, you could reverse it and have him as the XO and it kills him. But I like it the other way around. So we'll just keep him as... So, we'll keep it the way it was. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's fine. It's fine. It's a good point. So, yeah, exactly, Sierra Mike. You understand. So the ship is barely holding together. They get to Regulus. They beam down. As they're beaming down, they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. Most of the rest of the crew start wandering off to try and search what they can. Kirk has his private moment with Carol. Very important. It's in my opinion one of the best Kirk scenes in all of Star Trek. So that has to stay there. Then, as they're trying to discuss this, they notice that they find the pad, which is down here, but the pad is having some weird issues. So they're like, oh, okay, let's try and fix this and solve this. So they're trying to fix this. As they are actively trying to repair the pad, this is a good song for this scene. As they're trying to repair the pad, they successfully get it working, but they can't seem to connect to Regulus's pad. Remember, you need both. I keep doing this. You need both. So they're not able to connect to it, and they're trying to figure out why, and the ViewCom comes on, and it has to be visual. This is important. And Khan is there. It's like, hey, you may or may not... I can't do his accent. Ricardo Montalban is awesome. You may or may not be aware of the fact that you're having troubles beaming up. You are, of course, welcome to try, but without the receiving pad, I feel that might be a dangerous thing for you to do. And so... Kirk is, what have you done to us? And Kirk and Khan just starts gloating. And finally, as Kirk and Khan finally have their second confrontation here, Khan finally is like, you know what? I'll make this fair. I will send you the coordinates to my bridge. If you want to beam over to the Reliant right now, be my guest. And he just sits there, and he's just smug. Like, he is just chewing it up, loving the moment. And in the background, Savik just says under her breath, Kobayashi Maru, acknowledging that this is now a no-win scenario that Khan has set up. So, this, as they're sitting there and as they're regurgitating it, Kirk looks relatively unperturbed, for the most part. He's just like, okay. And he's pulling out his communicator as he's saying... Now, this whole scene would have to be like 10 seconds long for the pacing to work, because Khan is still right there on the view screen. But Kirk pulls out his communicator, and McCoy mentions, do you realize you were talking to the only Starfleet cadet to ever beat the Kobayashi Maru? And Savik, who has asked him about this before, says, how did you do it? What did you do? Kirk says, I cheated. You what? I cheated. I don't believe in the no-win scenario. Now, Spock. And then they beam out right in front of Khan, whose expression would go... So what I would do to frame the scene camera-wise is you can see Khan on the view screen back here, and Kirk is in front of the view screen along with... You can see, like, Savik to the right and McCoy over to the left. And as they beam out, we see Khan on the view screen just...
Yeah, going crazy.
And then just... and then we cut up to the ship where they are trying to get the hell out of Dodge as quickly as they can. Now, the Enterprise is still massively damaged, but they had successfully managed to do some of the repairs, just like they did in the actual thing, in order to be able to beam them back up and to be able to try and get out of here. This leads to the Nebula.
Yeah, and it also, and by the way, thanks for the support, Howard Gleason. Only way I can keep the lights on. Give Khan an Australian accent, not access.
He has access to Australia, guys. We're good.
Give him an accent. But this also, because yet again, Khan has been outwitted by Kirk.
Yep.
And this only adds to his ego or dementia or whatever he has, trying to
monomania at this point,
trying to defeat Kirk. And always, I mean, we even say that. I mean, the movie does a good. By the way, this is one of the only criticisms beyond the plot hole. 1 second, babe. Just 1 second, okay? But anyway, beyond the plot hole is that Khan, they always say that he's smart, and yet he gets outwitted so much. But yeah, so I think that, and then they'd head towards the Nebula. What's up, babe? You can't. So, love you.
Bye. I'll show you. Stay safe inside.
Okay. And so they head towards the Nebula. We weren't really changing a lot in that.
No, the Nebula can be almost one-to-one. There's really no need to alter that. The biggest change would be I would restructure the camera work. So Khan is beaten. He's been outmaneuvered. They successfully hit the ship. Khan decides, screw it, I'm going to bring you down with me. And he starts doing his wonderful speech, and he activates the Genesis device. And, the Enterprise can't get away quite in time because, duh. And as he's giving his speech, the biggest change would be the camera work would be focusing on 2 shots, both of which would be slowly shifting. One would be a shot of Khan himself, and the camera's very slowly moving in on him as he's speechifying. The other shot would be a shot kind of the view screen, but still getting some of the bridge in and slowly zooming out, so we could see more and more of the bridge as it's zooming out. And the point is, as we zoom in on Khan, he's bloodied and horrible, and he's glaring with those wild eyes of his. And as we shift over, Chekhov's on the Enterprise by this point. Sorry, Chekhov thing was earlier. I didn't really change that.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah, so how do we get him on the?
Give me a sec. Let me finish the scene. So the camera is the camera that's slowly panning out on the bridge crew. The whole point is to show the Enterprise wandering away as Khan is freaking out. And not freaking out as he is giving his final "I'm going to kill you" to the last I grapple with thee, and we just see all of his dead people, all of his loyal people that he supposedly cared about so much, and who followed him to death literally. And there's just corpses spewing across the bridge because the bridge has actually been hit, and Khan is just barely survived, right? So the idea there, and as he's giving his final speech, it just kind of trails off. So instead of him actually finishing to the last, for hate's sake, I spelt my last breath of thee, it would probably be more like, for hate's sake. And then he just stops there. and then the camera keeps panning out, and we just see the dead crew, and we cut to Spock's sacrifice and the actual death scene. Now, how do we rescue Chekhov? Now,
Quick thing before that. Had a good idea.
What's up?
Had a good idea. Listen, here's how we do
It's
it.
the worst thing ever. I hate it.
Oh, listen, watch, listen. All right, here's how we do it. So we go back to the scene where Khan is like, okay, so we have the pad for whatever reason be larger than it usually is. It has one more slot than the amount of crew there, right? On Regula. So you have 5 people there. There are 6 slots. Okay. And so you have Khan there, and Khan is like, he does like what you said. He's like, you know what? Because I'm a fair man, because I'm a sporting man, let me give you the option of also coming to the Reliant. Let me give you the codes. And he says, but instead, and then he turns over and he looks and he says, beam him over. And he beams over Tyrell and Chekhov.
Just Chekhov. Tyrell's dead.
No. Listen. Well, that's true. Another way to kill Tyrell too is in the transport.
Oh God.
That's what I'm saying. So
So Chekhov succeeds twice at his will save.
Yeah, whereas Tyrell is killed in the transport. We can kill him off first too. I like it the other way around too. That's a thought. But he could transport, and he says no wait, but they transport and he's fine. It's an option too. But how would you get him on there if not that?
No, that's I actually do like that. Because it would be part of his gloating. He would be basically saying, you know what, now that you're down there, now that you're having all these issues, I thought you might want some company. And then, and that's when Chekhov comes in, and on the pad, so he's fine. Because remember, they have a working pad on the asteroid.
And Tyrell's body.
There you go. And then just. Well, and then Chekhov. By the way, Chekhov is basically catatonic. Remember,
right?
He's barely functional. They're going to have to physically prop him up onto the pad to beam back to the Enterprise when the Enterprise does its thing.
Right.
So that's going to be a thing. But,
so that would be a way of doing it too. I had another one quick idea too. Let me put this, but here's what I'm gonna do. Here, let me do this.
You poking at the spreadsheet or what?
No. I'm going to poke at you. Are you in Discord?
I can be on Discord. I usually don't get on Discord when I'm streaming for obvious reasons. You're going to have to... That's true, Sheriff Yoda. We could keep that. Another thing, since we're mostly done with changes, I do want to mention one last change while he's typing here and ignoring me. One of the biggest things is I like the idea that we go with what was effectively the original idea, and instead of having them shoot a random torpedo down to the Genesis planet, they have a funeral. They just go down to the new lush, Eden, right? And they just have the funeral on the planet. And that's where Spock's funeral is, and they actually lay his body down there, etc. Because the shooting torpedo thing is always kind of, what? And... Well,
and it lands perfectly.
And it's perfectly intact. I mean, we know why that is. It's because A, they didn't plan it that way. Remember, that was a tacked-on scene. Originally, that was not even part of the script. And B, they needed him to be brought back in 3.
Right.
And as I like that idea a lot, by the way, what you said in Discord.
But I didn't want to say it out loud just in case you did.
No. I feel with you completely. So the idea here is we can still bury him in the torpedo. It doesn't matter. The torpedo or presence or absence is irrelevant. What's relevant is we bury him on Eden. Yeah, and so go ahead.
I was just saying you could still do it even at sea too. I mean, we could still use the torpedo. It just have an actual burial there for him.
So someone in your chat just said, "What if Spock stays dead?" I will admit I actually thought about that, but here's the thing. Well, I have a bit of a reputation for killing off characters. I only do it when I feel there's a reason to. I don't think permanently killing off Spock does anything good, and I think removing Spock from the equation takes away a lot that we could do in the future.
Right. Well, and my thing is, again, I think that would break continuity too much.
I mean, I'm fine with smashing continuity. That's just me. I mean, you've seen my Voyager rewrites.
Right.
But...
they still have to get to the same ending. That's what I liked about your Voyager rewrites.
Well, yeah, you're right. it was.
And that's what we're trying to do. They still have to get there at the end. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. It's just I do think killing off Spock would be the wrong move. Like even if we're back in the 80s and we're in the writers' room and the producer approaches me and says, "Hey, maybe you should think about killing off Spock," I'm gonna be sitting here going, "No."
Right.
Because even without the near omnipotent power of knowing where everything's going in the future, which we currently have, I still think there's just too much potential with the Spock character and with the Nimoy actor, and I don't feel like making a a Thomas Riker with Spock. So
Right. Well, and Nimoy wanted. He was on the fence, right? I don't even think they wanted to do it.
So yeah, Nimoy got into Wrath because he was excited about the death. Working on Wrath rejuvenated him. Like, you should hear him talk about it. Some of you have probably read the books and seen the interviews. He was like, it was the breath of fresh air that I needed. And it reminded me why I loved Star Trek. And I just wanted to do another one immediately afterwards. And so that's why he became director for 3.
Right. So I guess that would lead towards the ending itself, unless there was anything else.
We're gonna have the amazing closing lines with Kirk on the bridge, which is a great scene. Not gonna edit that at all. I feel young. Moving on. And then towards the end, so if you remember, the actual episode ends with the shot of the torpedo somehow miraculously perfectly having landed on Eden. What we would be doing is something slightly different. So we would have the same type of shot. There's the funeral scene. There's there's the funeral spot. There's the grave. There's the grave spot. There's the headstone. The camera's kind of panning over, and like a shadow kind of starts coming over things, and we see the outskirts of some kind of ship, which is coming down into that region, and then we cut to credits.
Right.
And if you want to know what that's all about, you're gonna have to wait till next week.
Which will be coming up. I mean, are there anything else we want to say on it, or anything else we want to add to it? By the way, people keep saying this. I don't know what it is about my demeanor. I'm just thinking about this and working through. I actually enjoy this. I wouldn't do something I didn't enjoy. But some people have asked, am I enjoying or bored or mad? I'm not mad. I'm thinking it through. I actually like this a lot, so I'm glad we're doing it. Jessie should be back next week too.
I was actually wondering where she was. Yeah, because we just.
Yeah, she's going through the move.
I
wasn't able to make it.
That makes sense.
And so, but yeah, so I don't think there's anything else to really add on it. Again, it's pretty tight. We just have those changes. Some of those changes are because of the technology that we've done more than anything else.
I think, so the last thing I want to polish is Sulu. Because I want to polish Sulu's shift into 3 a little bit more. And while that's more a 3 than a thing than a 2 thing, you mentioned as a quick aside that Sulu would help them move forward. And I like the idea that Sulu is, for lack of a better word to put it, a good quest NPC who helps advance the quest, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to think of the specific thing that Sulu is. I just noticed I've had Metroid up this. You can tell I'm into this because I'm not even playing Super Metroid.
Could he have? Because for me, it always seemed kind of weird that they had they just ran into the Reliant. Could he be the quest giver for that? Could he be like, no, I'm not detect. I can't break through it. There's nothing we can do. But It looks like there's a ship. I can't tell what it is, or it looks like there's some kind of reading that's headed for Regulus, and they intercept it.
So hang on. That's a great idea. Let me add something onto that. Sulu and the Gantry, or whatever ship he's on, I forget the name already. That he's the XO on. That ship is currently in the middle of dealing with something that is high priority. And so they basically don't have time to follow through on this. But I want to figure out what that high priority thing is and have it be relevant for one of the future movies. It could be something as simple as maybe some kind of Klingon incursions. Maybe there's reports of a random bird of prey roaming in the area.
So, yeah, and we can even tie that in at the beginning, because they talk about the Klingons. They're like, oh, isn't the Lantry going to be looking for that or something like that? Mm-hmm. And then it comes back. Because they're talking about there's a movement, but we still have problems with the Klingons. Mm-hmm. Apparently, we have some cloaked ships we think are in the area.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, isn't the Lantry, isn't Sulu on that? And then, then you can...
Yeah, so I love that idea because that'll perfectly tie in with what we're doing with 3 with the Klingons. So let's keep it Klingons for this one because it'll work for 3. Hear me out, guys. It'll work for 3. We got to plan all this in advance. We can't just do something that's good for 2. Doesn't work that way. So they're investigating reports of some kind of Klingon incursion in the area. Blah 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 blah. And but they were aware of Reliant's last location or knew it was within this sector, so they give the information to the Enterprise. So the Enterprise can beeline towards Reliant, where Reliant is, and that leads to the confrontation.
Yeah.
So hang on, Cashel just asked something. Is there anything of the Kelvin timeline's portrayal of Khan that you'd like to incorporate in this movie? I'd love to, but I don't think I could, because von Falkenstein just decided to donate right now and interrupt my train of thought, which I don't know why he'd do that, especially for a run that's already funded. So I cannot put that towards that, however, von
But now it's
Falkenstein.
extra funded.
Nope.
Double funded.
He gets to pick
gotta
something
play-
else.
You got to play it twice.
Nope, that is super not having with that game. Thank you very much, von Falkenstein. Hang on, really quick. Also, someone in your chat just asked, when is my Enterprise series coming up? That's in April, is when the Enterprise stuff is starting.
Of 2027.
Next year. Just because I do things 2 years in advance. All right, so now I have no idea, Sheriff Yoda. I absolutely adore the portrayal of Khan in Into Darkness. It's my favorite part of that movie. And I don't even just mean the actor, although I am a huge fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. But what I mean is, if I was to describe Khan in one scene, I would show you the scene where he takes over the bridge of the Vengeance. Right? You know that scene? I could describe it for anybody who doesn't remember that scene off the top of your heads. He's like, okay, well, we've got the situation. The crew are alive. Smacks Kirk immediately takes out the weapon and removes him from the equation. Very quick, very efficient. All his movements are very quick. And there's no excess waste. It's all efficiency. As he then immediately moves on, as he's running by Miss Marcus, he just slams down on her foot, her shin, excuse me, or possibly her knee. We don't actually see it. Basically taking out her leg and immobilizing her. Then he immediately grasps for the Admiral, his actual goal, grasps him by the skull and said, "You should have left me sleep," and then smashes his skull in. We don't see it. We just see his daughter's reaction to it. That's Khan. Brutal, quick, efficient, superhuman. Bam, 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 bam. Right?
Yeah.
I love that portrayal. I would love to fit that into this. But to be completely blunt, Cashel, I think we already did with the transporting them down to the planet. That's pretty Khan, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and that is more Montalban's Khan, honestly. Montalban's Khan is very, and a part of that was probably because he broke his back or something, but he was very methodical and very slow. He was super powered, and I'm sure he could have done anything he wanted to, but he liked to watch them suffer, and he liked to enjoy it. He wasn't as quick and efficient in that thing. I think that more fits with the movie or the portrayal of him. And also Donovan says, leave the scene of Sulu being told he will command the Excelsior after Wrath of Khan. He and Scotty are there for the reason Admiral Kirk wanted them there.
I don't actually understand that because we were already doing that.
Yeah.
Do you mind clarifying?
Yeah. In the year 2525, if we're still alive, Lore Runner will come out with Enterprise. That's true.
The actual Enterprise, by the way.
No, and I think he'll be doing the DS9 finale in that year too.
Yep, that's when that's happening.
Yeah, in that one, I really liked Khan versus Spock. I wish they had expanded that.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Where they're walking out their logical analysis. I wish that had been expanded quite a bit, because I think it was fun seeing that, seeing logic go against superhuman. But yeah, I'm trying to understand. Leave the scene of Sulu being told.
I don't know. I think the idea is actually, I think he means Search for Spock, not Wrath of Khan. In other words, don't have him getting his own ship earlier. Have him getting his own ship later, which I don't agree with for reasons I've already stated.
Yeah. Okay. When are the Cylons going to show up on Discovery? Probably about third or fourth. Was there anything else that we wanted to add to it? Because I think we pretty nailed it. I think we nailed it.
No, I'm pretty happy with this. The Sulu thing was the last hole for me. And we've slid in Chekhov, so he's going to be prepared. Remember, by the way, the episode ends with Chekhov. Chekhov won't really be present because he's off in sickbay, because he is so damaged after what Khan did to him.
He won't be present in the movie, and then when he's there, he won't be present either. He's pretty.
Yep.
He's pretty messed up.
And McDudd, Tyro's staying dead. It's over. We're done. He's dead. You're dead too now. Cool.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Glad we could threaten people on my channel.
Listen, I'm just going to kill all your viewers. Unless you become my viewers, in which case you're spared. That's how this works.
You just get stabbed. Because that's a thing that happens on the
You can survive stabbing, though. You can't survive being shot in the face. So.
By the way, guys, I'm actually watching these live on Twitch, twitch.tv/lore reloaded. Of course, Lore Runner does all kinds of stuff like this, and he does lore runs and breaks things down as well at lorerunner.com. So next week we will be doing the search for Spock. And then just to kind of give an update too, so we're doing all of the movies. So Search for Spock, Voyager.
Can I jump in real quick? I thought we were doing up to 6 and then pausing to shift gears a bit was what I thought we were doing. Because I want to leave... Well, not only does that make sense, but I kind of wanted to leave Nemesis for actual last, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because of what we're doing. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So we're going to stop at Undiscovered Country, and then we're going to go into Enterprise, right? Enterprise, TOS, TNG, DS9.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. All right, and so we're not doing, by the way, just to let... Because I got a couple of questions on this, too. We may do specific episodes, but we're not doing like every episode. Like every Saturday is a new episode. No, we're taking...
That would take a long time.
We're taking arcs, or if there's not a good arc, we're taking seasons. And so, like for instance, on Enterprise, if there's not a really good arc that we can latch onto in season 1, then we'll do a Saturday that's just season 1. I may ask we move it out a couple of Saturdays just so I can watch all of it again, but yeah, that's what we'll effectively be doing. And if you guys want to talk more about this, definitely check out lorerunner.com too, because you can go there, and even though he's playing a game or something different, he streams like 12 hours a day. I don't know how he did.
I'm up to 10 right now.
Yeah, it's freaking...
That's not actually a joke. I stream for 10 hours a day right now.
Is there anything else we wanted to end it on? Or is that's good?
This was an interesting creative challenge. I've seen a lot of thoughts and ideas, and we do actually read them. I wanted to mention this too, because I've actually talked about this on my side. The mentality here is we're the dictators, right? We have the final say. But that doesn't mean we're ignoring you, and it doesn't mean we don't want you to give your thoughts and give your comments. We do want you to share ideas. It's just this is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship.
Right. Well, and again, with both channels, we get comments almost every second or every 5 seconds. We can't.
Yeah, I have both chats up here, and I can read that fast, but responding that fast would be the stream, is just responding to chat at that point.
And that we would never get past like our first idea, because everybody would be bouncing it back and forth, and we'd be here for another 10 hours. But with that, guys, thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.